start pushing up on the flapper valve, so you kind of think that you know, however these are sized and designed, that they're relying on some back pressure from the exhaust, which makes a lot of sense that it'd be pretty significant under load to actually do the opening for. So I don't know what the minimum threshold is going to be on these turbos. I'm hoping it's fairly low. If not, the threaded portion of this rod's too short to get any more length out of it, so I'd have to probably redo this knuckle and get a longer one. That's the idea anyway. One thing about these glow shift gauges, I think they're pretty nice. I actually hooked one up, wired it, and they're fairly colorful and they look nice. But I noticed that right away it developed a problem with this connector here, that when the hose went on the barb, you know, it didn't take very much PSI, you know, maybe 15 or 20, where it kind of developed a little leak, and then eventually it kind of stretched out enough where it keep popping off. And in the package there was no clamp for this, so I'll have to go find one at the hardware store just to make sure that doesn't pop off on either end. But the idea would be just to tee this in at the line here, just kind of interrupt the flow from the pressure side to the... Oh, my wife came in, so I didn't want to make her famous, so I stopped the video there. The other gauge I bought from Glow Shift was just a dual temperature gauge. You know, it'd probably nice to get like a air fuel ratio gauge, but the car captures all that already, and you know, the SCT software actually you know, you can put gauges up and put it on your phone and kind of watch as you're going, and eventually get to the point where you just don't care to know anymore. So I didn't buy any more gauges than this for now. I'm hoping that tomorrow my last oil lines show up, so I can get everything put back together and kind of just get to the point where I can start testing things out. Alright. Oh, that's bright, huh? Might need that out of there, so let me move it. There's a little bit better view of the fittings for the oil takeoff for the turbos. And maybe the question on that is, how do you know you have the right port? Well, you don't really, but my thought is that the temperature port doesn't actually go into the oil. And maybe that's into the water jacket, but that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Or it's just dead. But anyway, the other port had oil coming out of it when I took it out, and I have the advantage of having the shop manual, so it tells you which one it is too. Right, I don't know if this is too dim, but I was so nervous about the oil return that I actually bought one of these Chinese I guess scavenge pumps. There's 8 million on eBay. They all got different stickers on them, but hopefully it does the job. So let me drag that light forward a little bit so it's a little easier to see. So I need to get this thing wired up. You have to turn this pump on when the car is on. And it's not quiet, but it's probably not as loud as you think it would be. I ran it dry for a few seconds just to see what it would do, and it's got a fairly decent hum, but it's not like one of those water pumps with the flap wheel in it that just drives you crazy. So I attached it to the crossbar here, just a couple of screws, and I had to bend this bracket to fit. One thing about this pump, when it connects into the bracket, it's just a couple of maybe 4mm screws. It's just fairly chintzy. Is there a possibility that this thing vibrates over time and causes those screws to come out, and am I going to drop this pump? So I might come back and maybe put some kind of strap around it just to prevent it from falling out. But kind of gets what you pay for always. So here's the return line to the oil pan. It's in my earlier videos I showed 2 holes in the oil pan, and I ended up just going back and plugging in one of those. Here's the T. These will go to each of the turbochargers and return. So there's the exhaust manifold on the driver's side, kind of right above me here. It's somewhat a pain in the butt to get everything bolted up in here, and that's just take your time to make sure it's tight and not leaking. And then like I showed before, this is my existing exhaust with a slightly modified run towards the end with an adapter flange to hook up the turbo exhaust and the wastegate. And I also put bungs in here because this car has 4 oxygen sensors. They used to be one on the inlet to the catalytic converter and one in the body, and I'm not quite sure what they're monitoring there. Maybe the performance of the catalytic converter or something, or maybe a drop shadow out when it senses heat or something. I don't know without looking in the shop manual to figure out what the intent was. But tomorrow I get my pressure lines and actually am able to hook turbos up. I can put everything back up, make sure it's tight, get the exhaust back up in place, and kind of know I'm not even going to do any tuning at that point. I'm just going to try and get the car started, see what kind of errors I get in the computer, and just take my time and monitor for leaks. It's like with all this knockoff stuff and brass fittings, you just never know. And then the heat cycle, what's that going to affect these things? So hope everything ends up pretty decent. I'd like to just see what kind of a spool up I get, what it sounds like. Just it's been about a month now, just struggling through everything. It's like there's no instructions how to do this. There's just some photos out there of how people have tried to do it, and most of them end up saying like, yeah, I got so far, and then nothing, like something bad happened, which will probably happen on this car. Overall, I think the most successful power increase for this vehicle is to rip this 3.9 out and put a Chevy motor in here and a new transmission and just build one. But I'd like the car to run like with the original computer. I'd like to just keep it looking like a Lincoln and that sort of thing. Alright, sure you've been blinded with that trouble light hanging out there. So for figuring things out, those universal piping kits are definitely worth $80 or $90 a piece that they were. My alternative I kind of wrestled with was places like McMaster and Parker. All these guys carry kind of like conveying hose, duct hose for liquids, and we use some stuff at work that's fairly rigid under vacuum and pressure and good to 300 degrees, and that probably would have just been able to be routed, you know, direct, a couple of T's here and there, and probably would have got the job done the same. So here we sit, you know, mass airflow sensor. It's, you know, should it be in a straighter run? You know, all these questions will have to be answered at some point. If the flow is too turbulent through here, will the mass airflow sensor have issues with sensing, that sort of thing? Well, there we go.